So thank you for the opportunity to present today. Um, what I want to talk about is I'm going to reflect a little bit on the changes that have happened in the last sort of 30, 35 years in working practices. And that actually coincidentally is the length of time that I've been working. I'm talking mainly about people like ourselves who are office-based professionals, and the changes that have occurred in the last 30, 35 years, which have been unprecedented, really. And reflecting on how are we better off, are we worse off, and starting to think about are there ways that we can work more efficiently, and more efficiently equals less stressed. So to ask these questions. This is all quite light-hearted. I hope you will enjoy it. Very happy to take questions during the meeting or afterwards. And thank you for your attention. So, this was my very first computer, which I had in 1990. It was 628 kilobytes in capacity, kilobytes, not megabytes, kilobytes. It would take about 40 minutes to load, and you put in drive A and drive B, you had to put 3 floppy disks into each drive to start it. And floppy disks were the biggest size. And obviously floppy disks got smaller as time went on. But I thought I was king of the world with that computer. I really did. It was fantastic. It could do so much. But when you look at it now, it's laughable, really. This was the first mobile phone I had. Yes, it was that big. Used to have to carry it around. It had 4 batteries in the bottom there, and each battery lasted an hour if you were lucky. Even in 1990, when I got this phone, it cost £10 a minute to make a call. So you hardly used it. I mean, but again, you felt like you were the king of the world because you had a mobile phone, you see. And then in 1992, I had this phone. This phone was fantastic. Yes, this phone, the charge would last for 4 hours, and you could make lots of calls. And yeah, again, I thought I was king of the world, and it had a screen on it as well. But in those days, most of the work was done in this fashion with files, paper files. When I was my first company I worked for, took a quite unusual step then in 1991 of shutting the offices and putting us to home working. And this was home working before any kind of technology. So I used to receive files this big every morning. Literally, there was a guy whose sole job seemed to be delivering me files. And if you think about it now, that was just an incredible way of working. I remember when the fax machine came along, that revolutionised the way we worked, because suddenly we could send documents to other people. And yeah, that was incredible. I remember working my first overseas assignment in Romania, which was in 1993. And if somebody came out, I was full-time in Romania. If someone came out at the weekend from Britain, a short-term consultant, and he brought a newspaper, you'd rip his arm off to get hold of the newspaper, because there's no way you had any kind of news. You didn't have any kind of international television, so you didn't have any kind of internet, and the level of information we had in those days was a fraction of a percent of what we have now. So I took a little look back at what predictions were people made in the 1950s and 1960s. So in the 1950s, people were talking about the possibility of shopping by picture phone. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if you could? Of course you can. It's amazing these things came true. Also, things they were talking about in the 1950s, self-drive cars. We're not quite there yet, but I don't think with Mr. Musk we're very far off. I don't know if you're going to sit in the back of the car and play cards, like these people are, but that was something they predicted about. An amazing thing predicted in the 1950s was you could actually see someone on a screen and talk to them. Amazing. Of course, that came true. I'm not quite again sure what these women are doing here, but again, these things came true. This one hasn't quite come true yet, automated agriculture, but we're not far off. A lot of agriculture now is automated. A lot of tractor work is done with robots and with satellite imagery, etc. So again, these things have all come true. I found a documentary while I was thinking about this presentation. It's a very fascinating one, made in Britain. It's called Time on Our Hands. It was made in 1962, and it predicted what the world would be like in 2020. And it predicted that by today, there will be full employment, and the average person will be working 2 hours a day. This was based on the fact that everything was done by technology. We didn't have to really work. Everything was made in factories. Everything was automated, and there was no need to be working very hard. So 2 hours a day was the time that they thought people would be working. And this documentary predicted that the serious problems now would be because of time on our hands, and everybody had money. And they predicted serious social problems, such as wide-scale drug use, because of the availability of money and time. So, has this come true? Has this prediction come true? Do we have more time? The sad answer to that is that actually we don't. A very, very interesting book by Professor Juliet Shaw, released in 2017, and she showed that in America, the average American is now working more days and taking fewer vacation days than a medieval peasant. And this is not the case only for America, it's the case for the whole world. And she also showed that leisure time had declined. Leisure time had declined by 19% since 1960. So in this time when we were supposed to be moving from a time where we were only working 2 hours a day, we're actually working at 20% less free time than we had before. And I think that's, if you consider how technology has changed the way we work, based on the sort of technology I was showing you from the Joe and I remember, you can see how I think it's quite sad that we've got all this technology and we're still working just as hard, if not harder. Also, the modern way of working has made us much less healthy. A report in the UK by the UK Health and Safety Executive reported that 44% of people suffer from stress, anxiety and depression directly related to work. So nearly half people are suffering from stress, anxiety or depression related to what they do every day. I mean, this is a staggering figure if you think about it. And it doesn't show this is probably getting worse now with the COVID making us work from home. And 57% of all working days that are lost due to stress, anxiety and depression, which is 26 days per person, which is more than most people getting leave. We have an entire generation of professionals who are likely to experience stress throughout their careers on an unprecedented scale. So we have the question I'm asking today is, why is that the case? Why are we getting to the point where we should be much more efficient? We should only be working 2 hours a day. We should have more time for our families, and yet we're much more stressed. We're spending less time with our families. We're spending more time working. We don't seem to ever be able to turn off. So what can we do about that? And so there's four reasons that I believe why we are all so stressed at the moment. The first one of these is that we are constantly connected. We have the computing power of the mobile phone compared to the computing power of my first computer is the mobile phone's got 1,000 times more capacity than my first computer had. And we can connect with people at any time, in any time zone. We don't have any problems now about knowing news like I did when I worked in my first overseas assignment. We don't have any problem at all with connecting with our families. But why does that make us more stressed? It should make us feel more connected. The trouble, of course, is that we feel like we are constantly having to look at things. And psychiatrists call this a tyranny of connection. The fact that we're always connected, the fact that we have emails that we have to answer immediately, that we have messages we have to answer immediately. The fact that if I want to talk to Joe and send Joe a message, I send it to him instantly. and then Joe feels he has to answer it instantly, or I'm going to send him another one. And this is creating unprecedented amounts of stress by always being connected. And I think this is myself, I think this is not a good thing. I think that, and you see now, children know how to use mobile phones before they know how to talk or walk. And the whole generation is growing up with the technology as something that they're completely used to. I don't know if this is a good thing, to be honest. The second thing is that because we see so much now, we see so much of the world, it makes us feel inadequate. It makes us feel that we have to do everything that everyone else is doing. And you know that Facebook is not real. People only put on Facebook what they want the world to see about them. So we see people now who are fantastically successful at work, and they're also staying at home, homeschooling their children, doing fantastic organic treats for children, somehow managing to spend all the time at work and all the time with the children. And they're also managing to travel, not at the moment because of COVID, but they was managed to travel and see fantastic places and take photographs of places that no one's been to, and we don't see how they can do it. And they also manage to throw fantastic parties, take fantastic photographs, and also everyone seems to be amazingly fit. They've got bodies that everyone is proud of, and they manage to find time to do all of this. And it makes the average person feel completely inadequate. The truth, of course, is this is a fiction. The truth is that very few people are able to do this, and if they are not really people you want to spend any time with. And the truth is that there's a fiction that everybody can work every hour God gives and spend the hour with their family. The truth is these are choices, and you only have a certain number of hours a day. You have to choose which one of these you want to prioritise. And the truth is that a lot of the things you see on social media are fiction for marketing purposes, and many of them are linked to people trying to sell you things like diet pills and lifestyle choices, etc. And I think we need to think that we don't need to do all these things simultaneously. We don't need to excel at work and excel at our family. We need to be much more creative about how we spend our time and what we do. The third reason we're so stressed, I think, is and this is perhaps the one we might be able to do the most about, is that we are not very good at planning or prioritising because we feel we have to answer everything at the same time. So we feel we go to work, we spend a whole day answering emails, we have 10 things on our to-do list, we finish the end of the day with 10 things on our to-do list, and we don't feel like we achieved anything. And then the next day we get up earlier and we start again, and we still have 10 things on our to-do list. And this is a recipe for burnout, in my opinion. And it's also a recipe for low self-esteem because we feel we haven't achieved anything, whereas we feel our colleagues and our friends are achieving things because of what they put on their Facebook posts. But they think that we're achieving things because of what we put on our Facebook posts, you see. This is the irony of everything. And the last reason, I think, why we're so stressed is that we don't really have ways of relieving stress that we think about properly. We're time poor, so we think of relieving stress through things that are relatively easy to do, like alcohol or coffee or fatty foods or something. Or if we do exercise, or we don't do it enough times, we do it like once a week or something, and we're not prioritizing stress release. We're not prioritizing taking care of ourselves, taking care of our mental health. I think this is important. So having identified these four things, the last part of my presentation now is just to give you just a few thoughts on how I think they should be or could be tackled. So the first thing I mentioned was the constant connecting. We feel we're constantly connected. Well, don't be constantly connected. It's very easy. Turn your phone off. Amazing. That will make you feel a million times better, particularly when you go to bed. I recommend quite strongly, don't have your phone beside you when you sleep. because it's binging and bonging all night, and you're not really sleeping because you're answering it. Also, the science is showing the type of light that it puts out, blue light, actually prevents you from sleeping when you get into deep REM sleep. So turn your phone off before you go to bed, and put your phone somewhere else that's not in your bedroom, so you don't see it. And have times of the day where you're not answering your phone, where your phone's not beside you, and even whole days. I try not to have my phone on Sunday. I try to put my phone away Sunday, so I don't touch it on Sunday. It doesn't kill you, you're surprised. And don't feel that you have to answer everything immediately. There's a great pressure now for people to feel that they have to answer an email within 20 minutes of it coming in, because otherwise someone else is going to answer it. Well, so what? In the days when I started working, you get a memo, an office memo or a letter. You didn't have to answer that every day because it came and you had like a couple of days to answer it. And the pressure to answer things immediately was not there. And we were just as efficient, I think. So try to change the mindset. You don't have to answer things immediately. If it's not important or urgent, don't feel you have to. Second thing is in terms of how we plan ourselves. This is when we see people achieving things. Let's remember that a lot of people are not achieving these wonderful lifestyles. Plan to do less. Plan to do nothing. Take some time off. Be kind to yourself. Make sure you have proper downtime. Proper downtime. It doesn't involve looking at your emails on your mobile phone. That's not proper downtime. Proper downtime involves looking at your phone in the cupboard or going for a drive with your family, but you don't have your phone. Yeah. As I said, just remember, Facebook is not real life, or whatever else, TikTok or Instagram, whatever else is these days. I'm not for these things. It's not real life, and you're being presented with a fictionalized account of perfect people, which we're not. And it's okay not to answer emails immediately. It's okay not to be online. Yeah. Where you've got this merging of work and non-work things online, and they all need to be answered immediately. It's okay not to answer them, particularly non-work things. Yeah? Just be kind to yourself. I think this is what my advice. In terms of prioritising our work planning, I think if you're the type of person like myself who makes job lists, well, make a list of jobs that is realistic. So don't put down 20 jobs with the expectation that you can do 5 of them, because you've still got 15 and you're stressed. So make a list of 3 jobs that you're going to do that day. Prioritise the ones that are really important. The ones that aren't important can be done another time. So you've only, so then if you achieve what you said you're going to achieve, you feel a sense of achievement. I think the bane of modern work life is email, because we have thousands of emails flying around all day. So think about how you manage your email. Think about managing your email like you think about managing a tender proposal or a project. First of all, you don't have to answer everything. It's not obligatory to reply to everything. Okay. It's not obligatory when you write back to copy everyone in the world. A couple of very helpful tips. You can set, the last company I worked for had an automatic message that appeared if you copied more than 2 people in an email. And it said, do you really need to copy more than 2 people in this email? And it was surprising that reduced email traffic in the company by about 40%, because we didn't need to copy every man and every man's person in an email. So that was one very useful thing. Another thing is you can set up Outlook to take certain messages into certain files moved at certain times. So I can example say that anything from Joe Miller is going to go straight to trash. Of course I wouldn't say that, but you can do things like that if you want to. Or anything from Levante Can is going to go to must be answered immediately. You can do these sorts of things. You can do these sorts of, but you can set up different priorities with your email so that you're reading them in the right order. And you can certainly take things out of your inbox. You don't see the constant ticking up of your email inbox all the time, which I think stresses lots of people. You can do things to do that. Managing meetings. This is again one of the banes of the modern world. How many meetings do we have, particularly since COVID? And how many of them are actually important and necessary? So my sort of things about a meeting. Meetings should have a purpose. The purpose of this meeting is that we are going to agree what we are doing about this issue. The purpose of this meeting is we are going to understand the technical specifications of this project in this country. Unfortunately, some meetings are just a meeting, and we sort of have the meeting and we're not really sure what we discussed. All meetings should be recorded. I think that's very, very important. So each meeting, even if it's between two people, someone should record it, so you know what you've discussed. Now, it might sound like it's taking time, but I think it will save time because you know what's being discussed and the action points are recorded. So we had a meeting, Joe and I had a meeting about a project in Macedonia, and we agreed that by the 15th of February we were going to do X, Y, Z. And it's written down. And make sure that the meeting, the outputs relate to the purpose. This is good logical frame management for you. What are we going to do as a result of that meeting? What else is going to be necessary? So that we're managing meetings to only have them if there's a real reason and there's real outputs and we're recording. Because otherwise you see your diary filling up. And there are people, and we all know who they are, who sort of just create meetings to make it look like they're doing something. And it's not really necessary. And also, don't be scared to not attend meetings. If you get an invitation to a meeting and you think, I'm sorry, I don't need to attend this. This is not necessary or important to me. So I'm very sorry, I don't need to attend this, and decline. I think, again, we've got to be kind to ourselves and make time for ourselves to do these sorts of work correctly. And last thing I think is we're getting very poor as a people now in being able to read proper documents. Because everything is condensed in very bite-sized pieces that we all need to get everything in a minute. We're getting very, very poor at actually thinking and properly analytically analysing a piece of work and understanding what it really means. So take time to try and read and understand longer, thoughtful pieces of work. I find that relaxing. I also find it helps to understand everything else that's going on. That's my last recommendation here. And stress relief. Now, different people will release stress in different ways. Personally, I do believe exercise is important. It doesn't have to be, a marathon. It doesn't have to be lifting the biggest weights in the gym. It can be a walk. But try and prioritize exercise, because there's so much evidence that exercise every day, a small amount, is so much better for our mental health, our mental well-being, and our ability to work effectively. So try and treat exercise as something that's essential. So eating is essential. Going to the bathroom is essential. Exercise is essential. Look at it like that. Don't look at exercise as something you can skip. But even if you do a 20-minute walk every day, the benefits of that are huge in my opinion. And make time to relax. Make it away from your phone. Make time to just to sit, contemplate, think about the day, to think about what you want to do next. Make time to think about how you're going to react to certain things. Eating clean. I mean, this is something we all know about, but obviously trying to avoid too much processed food, too much fatty foods, too much red wine. No, maybe not red wine, but too much. Try to avoid too many eating these foods fine, but try and eat cleaner. And clean is less processed food. There's no doubt the evidence is showing that that's linked to all sorts of illnesses, mental and physical. And again, don't compare yourself to everyone else. Yes, we all know the guy who's just run 2 ultra marathons back to back and spun the channel. Yeah, that's an exception. It doesn't matter that if you compare yourself, you always find people who can do things better and do things worse than you. All you're doing, the only person you should compare yourself with is yourself. Yesterday I walked 20 minutes. Today I walked the same distance. I walked in 19 minutes. It's great. I feel a bit better for it. That's the way I think things should be going. And lastly, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the work of Max Hammond, but this is one of my favourite quotes. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. I think you can add sleeping to your list. Sleeping well.
Yeah. Yes, you're quite right, Joe. Yes. Yes, you're quite right.
Dave has talked about stress in modern working. Do you share his view? Are emails and iPhones a problem for you? Are you able to prioritize? Are meetings not so great? Do you read properly? What are your views on any or all of these matters that Dave has raised? Would anyone like to ask a question or make a point?
Joe, if I may, I have a question and a couple of comments, if I can.
Yep.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Joe and Dave. And it was really good. Dave, your presentation was really good. First of all, I mean, I listened Dave's, especially the recommendations, and I remember when I was Pretoria in South Africa with Dave, me and Levent, he took us to an exercise at 5 a.m. At 5 a.m., yeah, we were at exercise, and it was his like routine, a couple of times a week, and I was really impressed, and he was really doing it every week, multiple times, and before he started cooking. So it was really, so you do what you say, so which is very important. You do what you say. So so that was, I'll just tell you that it was impressive. Second thing is that I agree about prioritization a lot, and it is not easy to do the prioritization. I will just say that when I do a prioritization myself, weekly or daily, I feel much more comfortable. If I don't do, I feel uh, I don't feel comfortable. So I want to underline that. The one thing that you recommended that it is very hard and challenging for me as well is like the email stuff. You said like, and it's true that when, for instance, I'm sending in an email, I send it to Dave Burton, and then I might have CC'd 12 different people. And so that one single email goes to 13 different person. And then when anybody replies, again goes to the 13th person, and another person replies, goes to another 13 people. So this is really a lot of emails going around, but it is not easy in it our working environment not to sometimes copy some people just to inform them or let them know or be on the same page or start discussing through email, which might take forever. But I'm just saying it is not easy from my side. Maybe you have a way of doing it, because it would really eliminate lots of emails. I totally agree with that. So sorry, Joe, it was a bit longer, but I agree with the comments, and I have one question: how to do that, not copying many people?
It's not easy. But if you say you sent an email to 13 people, and there's 13 people reply, then you've already got 13 times 13. I think is 160 something messages. Yes, I think, like I said, in my last company, a message came up. If you copied an email to more than two people, it just made you think. I said, all I can say is you think, well, do I really need to send it to all these 13 people? You know, or maybe only 5 people really need to see it. Yeah. And I think the copy function is quite important, because if we use email correctly, to requires action. Copy is for information. So if we all did that, what you can set Outlook up to do is that you deprioritize messages you're copied to. Yeah. So the messages that are priorities messages are ones that are where you are the to recipient, and if you're a copy recipient, it's not. It can go into a different file. Now, that assumes that people use that sort of protocol correctly. That they only put, if I require an answer from you, you're the to. If it's only information, I'll put you in copy. Yeah, that is one way of doing it, because I think that certainly reduces a lot of the traffic, and you can set that Outlook will allow you to do that. Will allow you to put messages where you're the copy recipient into a different folder and deprioritization. So that's one thing you can do. And the other one is just really ask yourself the question: do all these people really need to see this? Is it really essential that everyone sees everything? You know, because probably if not. I don't know.
Okay,
Thank you, Dave.
thank you. Let's hear from anyone else who's burning to say something. Please. Dave, let me, while we're waiting, I suppose all of this is affecting our brains because there's a lot of rubbish out there. People are reading a lot of rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
People are talking a lot of rubbish on the internet and on phones and so on. Huge conspiracy theories going around at the moment during the coronavirus times.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose there must be growing evidence that it's doing things to our brains, this rubbish.
I'm sure. I mean, one of the things now that worries me, I will be honest, is the amount of unverified statements that are made.
The truth doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't seem to, and unfortunately, it starts at the very top. You had the supposed leader of the free world who, tells, and it's been verified, four lies a day. It's difficult for the rest of us. And I think we work in an industry where, we deal with facts. The proposals that we write are based upon facts. And the projects we implement are based upon facts, and facts can be inconvenient things. In our working life, it's very, very, very beholden us to be evidence-based. So if we're making statements in technical proposals, we must be able to back those statements up with evidence-based sources. And I think that's we're sort of is beholden upon that as professionals to do that. And I think we also need to be looking very carefully at the source information that we use. I mean, it used to be the case, when I started writing tenders, we'd use academic journals would be our major source. Now we have things written on the internet, which are often not verified or verifiable. And we need to be much more careful about quoting things like that. And then, some of the nonsense at the moment, unfortunately, I don't always practice what I preach. I did get into quite a heated exchange with some complete strangers about wearing masks the other day. Because to my mind, this is an absolute, how anybody can argue that you shouldn't be wearing masks is beyond me. And this person said that, wearing masks constricted oxygen to their brain. And I said, well, that ship's really gone for you, sir. It didn't help very much. But I think, I think all we can do in our life is to be beholden to facts. Facts are very inconvenient things sometimes, but I think we must, and in the job we do, it must be fact-based, evidence-based. Evidence-based policy making, evidence-based decision making is absolutely necessary for all development projects.
I think a new profession is going to be brain recovery. Take control.
Yeah.
Take control
Exactly.
of what's going on into your brain.
Yeah.
So,
I tell you what it does interest me is these people who are fact checkers. A friend of mine does that in South Africa. It's a wonderful job. And she's employed by a couple of news agencies to basically fact check the government. and that's very interesting because she's very, very focused on facts. No, you can't say that. That's not correct. You know.
Very interesting book called Factfulness, came out last year.
Okay.
Factfulness.
Factfulness. Let's look at that.
Yeah, must be. So I think our listeners, have you had enough? Say yes. Or would you like to ask any questions? Or should we call it a day? Please write to me. Say something.
Okay.
Okay, I think Levent is saying thank you to everyone.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much indeed, colleagues. I very much enjoyed this. It's nice to do something a little bit different.
Okay. And have a good weekend, everyone.
Everyone have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Remember turn your phone off.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much.